3 days prior to the start of the Allied infantry and armored division's arrival on the French coast of Normandy, on June 3, 1944. Adolf Hitler and his friend Eva Braun attend the 3-day wedding, which serves as the final significant social gathering for the top Nazi officials, in spite of the increasingly frequent food shortages and bombings of major cities. Eva's sister, Gretel Braun, who would go on to become the Führer's sister-in-law, weds a senior and rapidly rising SS officer who, along with his unit, had carried out unimaginable atrocities against civilians in Poland, the region of Soviet Belorussia, and Ukraine, killing thousands of defenseless Jewish men, women, and children. Hermann Fegelein is his given name. On October 30, 1906, Hermann Fegelein was born in Ansbach, which was then a part of the German Empire. Fegelein worked at his father's Munich equestrian school as a young lad before developing into a skilled rider and competing in jumping competitions. Hermann enlisted in the 17th Bavarian Cavalry Regiment in 1925 and departed in 1928. In the same year, he became an officer cadet with the Munich-based Bavarian State Police. Fegelein's supervisors believed that guiding his ambition in a constructive path was not always simple for him. After it was discovered that he had sneaked into a superior's chamber to steal an exam answer sheet, his police career ended abruptly in the summer of 1929. In the years that followed, Fegelein fully shifted to the Nazi Party and the SS, claiming that he had quit the police on his own account to better serve them. Her father introduced Hermann Fegelein to Nazism by frequently providing the SS with a meeting space at his riding institute. His father's training grounds and horses were also utilized by Nazi equestrian troops. Fegelein joined the SA and Nazi Party in August 1930. He then joined the SS in 1933. Germany became a dictatorship in the same year that Adolf Hitler and his Nazi Party took control. For those like Hermann Fegelein, a careerist and opportunist with no ethics or limitations, this was the ideal moment. Heinrich Himmler, the leader of the SS, quickly took notice of him after he assumed control of his father's riding institute and took charge of setting up the facilities and courses for the 1936 Summer Olympics equestrian competitions in Berlin. Heinrich Himmler's Golden Boy was the nickname given to Hermann Fegelein. He was Himmler's protege because of his innocent appearance and skillful use of charm and seduction. Fegelein was treated like a son by Reichsfuhrer Himmler, and promotions followed shortly after. Heinrich Himmler ordered the creation of the SS main riding school in Munich, where Hermann Fegelein was named commander in 1937. The invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939, marked the beginning of the Second World War. On October 6, the battle in Poland came to an end and the Soviet Union and Germany divided and annexed the entire nation. Soon after, Fegelein and his commanding Death's Head Horse Regiment reached Poland. Heinrich Himmler ordered the regiment to be expanded from 4 to 13 squadrons, and on November 15, 1939, the 1st Death's Head Cavalry Regiment was established. Ethnic Germans in Nazi-occupied Poland were used to recruit more members. The unit was put under the direction of the Order Police, which functioned either alone or in tandem with Nazi Germany's paramilitary execution squads, the Einsatzgruppen. Officially, their role in Poland was to combat partisans and gangs. Rather, Fegelein and his group participated in the murder of civilians, primarily Polish intelligentsia like doctors, teachers, priests, and other well-known figures in Polish society. These Reich adversaries were recognized before to the war and interred in mass graves following their murder. On December 7, 1939, Fegelein's battalion took part in the mass shooting of 1,700 of these individuals in the Campino forest. 100,000 Poles were killed in these mass murders. The 1st Death's Head Cavalry Regiment was divided into 2 units on December 15. There were instances of theft and corruption, and Fegelein's unit lacked supplies like food and weaponry. Court-martial proceedings were brought against Fegelein after they were discovered taking cash and upscale items to be transported back to Germany. In addition, he was accused of having a sexual relationship with a Polish woman and murdered driven by money. Because Polish women were viewed as an inferior race, it was technically forbidden for German soldiers to have sex with them during World War II. Fegelein coerced his lover into having an abortion after learning of her pregnancy. Heinrich Himmler rejected every attempt by Reinhard Heydrich, the head of the Reich Security Main Office and a key architect of the Holocaust, to look into the accusations made against the Holocaust. The Battle of France was the name given to the German invasion of France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands that began on May 10, 1940. Within 6 weeks, these nations and France were subjugated. Hitler wanted to further humiliate France by having the peace document signed in the same railcar that the representatives of the vanquished Germany had used to sign the armistice at the end of World War I. Fegelein received the Iron Cross Second Class in December 1940 for his participation in the French campaign. Hermann Fegelein and his regiment were stationed on the Eastern Front when the German invasion of the Soviet Union, Operation Barbarossa, began on Sunday, June 22, 1941. Horse-drawn artillery equipment was towed using any available vehicles, and personnel were transferred in lorries to the front fighting zone due to the horses' exhaustion. Fegelein and his group were given orders by Heinrich Himmler to murder partisans and then eradicate Jews in the region that is now Ukraine and Soviet Belarusia. The plan was to shoot enemy soldiers without uniforms and capture those in uniform. Except for a small number of highly qualified leather workers and physicians, Jewish men would also be shot. Himmler ordered that all male Jews above the age of 14 be shot and that women and children be forced into wetlands where they would drown because there were not enough Jews being slain. The women and children were also shot since the swamp's water was too shallow and some places lacked any swamps at all. According to Fegelein's final report on the operation, his unit slaughtered some 16,000 Jews under the guise of fighting partisans. Fegelein's battalion lost 3 men missing, 17 soldiers killed, and 36 wounded. Fegelein was once more charged with stealing in October 1941, but Heinrich Himmler ordered the allegations to be dropped. Hermann Fegelein was twice gravely wounded by a sniper in December 1942, but he and his division continued to fight partisans the next year, destroying villages, killing civilians, and seizing cattle. Fegelein joined Hitler's headquarters staff in January 1944 after Heinrich Himmler designated him as his liaison officer and SS representative. Hitler was loathed and looked down upon by many in his closest circle. Hitler's architect and Nazi Germany's Minister of Armaments and War Production, Albert Speer, referred to Fegelein as one of the most disgusting people in Hitler's circle. Hermann Fegelein was at the Wolf's Lair headquarters on July 20, 1944, when Klaus von Stauffenberg and other conspirators tried to kill Adolf Hitler. Fegelein suffered a minor injury to his left thigh from the bomb blast, while the Führer lived. Numerous conspirators appeared in show trials before the renowned people's courts, but this practice was discontinued since it allowed conspirators to voice their disapproval of the Nazi government. Ultimately, 4,980 people were put to death, often on the thinnest of grounds, and almost 7,000 more were jailed. In the past, Fegelein would display pictures of the individuals who had been hung after this abortive assassination attempt. Gretel Braun, one of the 2 sisters of Eva Braun, Adolf Hitler's close friend and briefly his wife, was married to Fegelein on June 3, 1944. Far from the bombing and fighting, at the Mirabel Palace in Salzburg, Hitler, Himmler, and Martin Bormann witnessed their wedding. All of the wedding planning was done by Eva Braun. 3 days were dedicated to a wedding reception at the Berghof and a celebration at the Eagle's Nest in Obersalzberg. This marriage is thought to have been politically motivated, and Fegelein saw it as a means of advancing his career. He did, however, have a reputation as a playboy with numerous extramarital affairs. Hitler's final private secretary, Traudl Junge, claimed that Fegelein had informed her that his career and a life full of fun were the only things that mattered after the war. The Third Reich was in danger of disintegrating in the beginning of 1945. Adolf Hitler took up residence in the Führerbunker beneath the Reich Chancellery Garden on January 16, 1945, and the Soviet Red Army arrived on the outskirts of Berlin on April 21. The loss of the conflict was obvious. Hitler sent for Fegelein because he had left his position in the Führerbunker. Fegelein was intoxicated, dressed in civilian clothing, and getting ready to escape to Sweden or Switzerland when the SS discovered him in his Berlin apartment. Additionally, he had jewelry and cash on him, some of which belonged to Braun. The SS discovered documents in his bag that showed Himmler had tried to negotiate a peace deal with the Western Allies. After being detained, Fegelein was returned to the Führerbunker. Hitler ordered Himmler's arrest and Fegelein to be stripped of all rank and court-martialed after learning about Himmler's covert talks, which he saw as a betrayal. Hitler's secretary, Traudl Junge, said that Eva Braun begged Hitler to spare her brother-in-law and attempted to defend Fegelein's activities while in the bunker. Hermann, who was married to her sister Gretel, who was then nearing the end of her pregnancy, was someone Eva liked. But nothing was helpful. According to Junge, Fegelein, who was 38 at the time, was shot like a dog on April 29, 1945, when he was brought to the Reich Chancellery's grounds. Journalist James P. O'Donnell, who carried out in-depth interviews in the 1970s, claims that Hitler gave Wilhelm Mohnke, one of his final generals, instructions to establish a tribunal. Hermann Fegelein testified that he was so inebriated that he was crying, throwing up, and even urinating on the ground. Fegelein insisted that he was only answerable to Himmler and would not accept that he would have to account to Hitler. Mohnke ended the hearings and handed the defendant over to the security squad, never to be seen again, as both German military and civilian law require a defendant to be of sound mind and comprehend the charges against him. After her lover died in an automobile accident in April 1971, Fegelein's wife Gretel, who survived the war, gave birth to their daughter Eva Barbara Fegelein on May 5, 1945. She then committed suicide. Gretel remarried and passed away in 1987 at the age of 72. For Hermann Fegelein, no tears were shed.